Hi everybody. So today we are going to talk about sugar and insulin. So again, this is part of the Good Calories, Bad Calories book series. I read it so you don't have to. And telling you all this lovely important information that I learned. Again, everything in nutrition, take this with a grain of salt. Make sure that you know that pretty much everything in the nutrition world is based on hypotheses. So it's not fact or fiction. It's just ever changing. So this is currently what we know now. So sugar consumption is one of the most noteworthy differences that can explain the increased incidence of diabetes, coronary heart disease, hypertension, and high cholesterol. And that even goes for different nations. So it's not just the United States. The higher the sugar intake, the higher the incidence and the mortality from cancer of colon, rectum, breast, ovary, uterus, prostate, kidney, nervous system, and testicles also became. So sugar, not necessarily a great thing. One of the scientists that was in this book, what he did was an experiment with feeding high sugar diets to college students. And what happened was in those college students, it was reported that it raised their cholesterol, particularly their triglycerides, which we want to keep lower. Their insulin levels also rose up, again, because sugar, then you have that blood sugar, insulin comes out, and then it raises just your blood insulin in general. The blood cells became stickier because of that. So like they're sticking to your artery walls, which again, that could be an explanation for blood clots that seem to participate heart attacks, again, getting stuck kind of everywhere. That would also get stuck in your brain arteries as well. So pretty much the higher the insulin levels, the greater the risk of heart disease. So there is another hypothesis. It's called the Insulin Atherogenesis hypothesis. And kind of what that does is it's the excessive secretion of insulin accelerates atherosclerosis, which we know from heart disease. It can also accelerate other vascular complications like those of the brain, and really any dietary factor, refined carbs in particular. So again, those are going to be your cookies and cakes and breads and anything that's white and processed. That will increase insulin secretion. That's going to increase your risk of heart disease. So that's kind of that hypothesis. So in particular, raising the blood sugar will increase the production of what are known as reactive oxygen species and advanced glycogen end products. That's AGE. So both are toxic. The reactive oxygen species, they're generated by the burning of glucose, so your blood sugar, for fuel in the cells. That's how that works. In a process that attaches electrons to oxygen atoms, transforming the oxygen from a relatively inert molecule into one that is avid to react chemically with other molecules, which just causes a chain reaction when normally one would not be there. It's not an ideal situation. So if you've ever heard of free radicals in nutrition, that's what those are. And all of them known together are called oxidants because they oxidize other molecules. So that's the same chemical that causes iron to rust is what is happening in our bodies. The object of oxidation slowly deteriorates. It's called oxidative stress. And antioxidants, which we've heard, blueberries are an antioxidant, fruits and vegetables have antioxidant properties, vitamin C, all of that will help neutralize reactive oxygen species. So then we have AGEs. Those can take years to form, but it begins with the attachment of sugar, glucose, to a protein without the benefit of an enzyme to orchestrate the reaction. So the role of enzymes in us is to control chemical reactions to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing their programming. Without the enzymes, the sugar is going to stick to the protein, and then a bunch of different unregulated chemical reactions are going to happen in your body, and it's going to throw it out of homeostasis. So if blood sugars are low enough in the body, the sugar and the protein are going to disengage because they're like, oh, there's nothing here for me. No damage will be done. If the blood sugar is elevated, however, the process is going to continue. So AGEs in the glycation process causes the oxidation of LDL particles, those low density lipoproteins, that cholesterol. And so causing the LDL and its accompanying cholesterol to become trapped in the artery wall. Again, it's making things sticky. This means that anything that raises blood sugar will lead to more atherosclerosis and heart disease, more vascular disorders, an accelerated pace of physical degeneration, even in those of us who never become diabetic. So let's talk a little bit about the glycemic index. So I'm sure pretty much everyone has heard of the glycemic index at some point in their life. It's pretty much like how high or low on the scale sugar is in reactive to your insulin and your blood sugar. So if you eat something, say white bread, that's going to be high on the glycemic index because it immediately gets absorbed into your bloodstream. Insulin goes, hello, pops up to try and offset that. Again, homeostasis is what we're aiming for. Meanwhile, a green apple or a blueberry that doesn't have that high sugar content isn't going to raise your blood sugar as much. So those low blood sugars or low glycemic index. So the glycemic index of sucrose is lower than flour and starches, and fructose is why. So the carbs and starches are broken down upon digestion first to maltose and then to glucose. And the glucose is what moves directly from the small intestines into the bloodstream. So table sugar, which is sucrose, is both a glucose and a fructose. So the bond is broken up by digestion. The glucose is going to go into the bloodstream, raise the blood sugar. The fructose is going to have really no immediate effect on your blood sugar. It's just going to kind of keep going. This is where we get kind of like sugar is evil in the diet. It's because fructose, that endows it with a singular distinction. So that's kind of why people are like, oh, sugar is evil. It's because of that. So because the fructose barely registers in the glycemic index, it appears to be the ideal sweetener for people that do have diabetes. High fructose corn syrup is effectively identical to sucrose upon digestion. The industry treated it and the public perceived it as something that was very healthy a while ago. And then sucrose was the one that carried that controversy. Because fructose is the primary sugar in fruit, it's high fructose corn syrup is often referred to as fruit sugar, and it appears healthier just by virtue of association. By defining carb foods as good or bad based on their glycemic index, health officials effectively misdiagnosed the impact of fructose on human health. And the key is the influence of glucose or fructose not on blood sugar, but on liver, because that is what, detoxifies your entire body. So if something is going wrong with your liver, then something really is probably going wrong with your entire body. Fructose passes directly to the liver. So whereas it's not passing from digestive system to bloodstream, it is going to your liver. It's metabolized there, pretty much is the only place that it's metabolized. And then the liver responds by converting it into triglycerides, which is, again, another form of fat and cholesterol. And then it ships out on lipoproteins for storage somewhere in your body, in your fat cells. The more fructose in the diet, the higher the subsequent triglyceride levels are in the blood. Glucose, however, is the least reactive of all the sugars. So that's the one that was kind of getting that bad rap before because it immediately gets absorbed into your bloodstream. It is the one that is least likely to attach itself without an enzyme to a nearby protein. Again, that's the first step in the formation of those AGEs that we don't want. So as much as sugar gets that bad rap thing, we would rather consume that glucose than that fructose because overall, the fructose is worse off for you.